what he was saying about how you can be broke in Thailand is that like the cost of living is quite comfortable because there is in Thailand it's
Comfortable,
like,
you mean it's high or
no, it's like even though
decent?
there's a lot of tourism in Thailand, there's still a lot of people that live very middle class and below lives. So there's always going to be access to things for everybody. I've noticed in Kenya how it's like you almost like have to have money to like live in Kenya.
Yeah, you
like
need
people
money.
that are poor like really struggle. In Thailand, you don't
Yeah.
see like that many homeless people on the street at all. They can afford food. They can afford water. You know, they can afford all of the things that are basic.
Your basic necessities
Are all the cheapest
necessities
things
you can
in the
actually
country.
just
Housing, healthcare, food are all the cheapest things in the country, which is like the opposite of America. The most expensive things are housing, food, and healthcare. The things that you
cost
need
of
to
living
live.
is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how it was kind of like once you got there, your quality of life goes up because again, the things that you actually need to just not be in survival mode, to not be in this like lower chakra, like survival mode are taken care of. Is that I can afford to eat. I can afford my apartment. I can afford to do this. So now I can focus on my self-esteem, my love life, my social life,
Personal
my
growth, everything
religion,
else.
all these things because all of your lower Maslow's hierarchy of needs are covered.
Yeah.
For the most part. And yeah, that's how I got to Thailand.
No, but you know, that's what I'm saying. Like even for not, even your stories are kind of similar. So now I understand even like maybe when you started talking and the same way he was saying like I just booked a ticket and for me it's just Thailand and even the same thing with you.
I had the one-way ticket, right? So I booked that. But this program was only 1 year. I should put that out.
Oh,
the program was only 1 year. But at the
what's
end
the
of that
plan?
program, everybody went back to America. All my other, so it was 8 of us that came from my university, 8 students. But all of them went back to the States and went back to their jobs. It was like a gap year thing. You did 1 year and then you go back and you do your real job. I didn't want to go back. So I stayed. And
So
I
you
asked the
stay,
school,
but what's
could
the
I
plan
stay?
though if you're staying and you know school is not in session?
I applied. I didn't apply, but I just asked the school, could I stay another year? And they were like, yeah, because I'm good at it.
Oh,
so they let me
really?
stay 1 more year. And then the next year, I went out of my way to find another job. And I ended up teaching at international school. They pay way more. And it was they treated you way better too.
Still teaching English?
Still teaching English for that amount of time until COVID when I quit. But that's a whole other story. But quit teaching English in the school. I quit that during COVID. After the pandemic, whatever.
Yeah, midway through it, actually.
Midway.
Is there any specific reason you quit? I mean, we haven't gotten to it. You haven't quit music, have you?
No.
Nah.
I only quit teaching English in the school.
So wait. So you quit something that's actually paying you and...
That was paying her really well.
I'm always
actually.
asking people, like I've never quit any job. I always get fired.
Same.
I've just been fired so many times. Like, I mean, I've never quit.
I've never.
Wow.
Well, I've gotten fired before,
But
but
until
I've
now-
never left until that. That was my first time ever,
Oh, okay.
leaving a job, and he knows I was stressed. I was
Yeah.
overwhelmed. I was like, why would I leave? I'm in a good position. Like, my job is good and all of these things. But essentially, what happened was that when the schools closed during the pandemic, there was like lockdowns for schools.
Yeah.
So my school, it was a summer break. I had just met him actually, like a month before that, and I was going on my.
So he's the reason why you quit.
He helped support me in that.
Oh.
I felt more.
Bad influence.
I felt
But
more
in the best way
comfortable
possible.
No,
doing
yeah,
it.
true, yeah.
Because I had someone. I wasn't alone, basically.
Yeah.
Just quitting my job and now I'm just out here in the world. Like, oh, now I have a friend to do things with. But when it was summer holiday, and I was going to my favorite place in Thailand, which is this place called Pai, and I had been there many, many times before. That was like my holiday destination, but this time I was going for the summertime. And I invited him to come with me, even though I had just met this man. And I was like, you want to come with me to Pai? And then we went there, and then they shut down all the schools.
Like the day after we arrived.
The day after we arrived.
So everything in the country just
Everything.
like shut down. Again.
So we could go back to Bangkok, but it was also like, don't fly, don't.
Yeah,
it was
so
like,
there's no point even trying to go anywhere.
So we're in my holiday destination, my dream place.
Okay.
And we get stuck for 5 months. So from June, my school never opens again till November. So that whole time I'm teaching when the school opens again, we start teaching online and all of that stuff. But every day I'm teaching and then we're going to the waterfalls. We're going to the
you guys
hot
are together
springs.
as well.
Yeah.
And we're like
That's
exploring
nice.
this beautiful place. And I'm like living in nature. It's a small town in the mountains. Like
barely anybody in
very
in the
remote.
place,
there
like,
was no one there during this
yeah,
time.
it was so quiet.
It was beautiful. And I was just like living this life. And then in November, I had to go back to the city. So we went back to Bangkok and I was like, man, what? The ghetto, the city? What? This is overwhelming.
I can't do it.
I can't do this. Everything's expensive. Everything's loud. Like I couldn't do
sucked.
it. The food sucked. Everything was horrible at this time. And we went back to immediately. So I had this winter holiday. We went right back for Christmas. I was like, we got to go back. Yeah. So we went back for the month. School still closed for a little bit for like 2 extra weeks. And then when I went back in January, the schools were open, but I was like, I can't do, physically, my body, my mind, my spirit, who I am now is not who I was pre-COVID, you know? Yeah. And everyone changed during the pandemic, but for me, it was that. It was like, I need to be near nature. Like, as a human, I realized that I was like, we need to be in close proximity with grass. I need to be able to walk out of my house and touch grass. I don't want to live in a penthouse up at the 15th floor where I can see the view. I want to be near the earth. That's crazy to live in a box in the sky. Like, it was so insane to me to feel that way. And I was like, this is not it. So I was like, I literally had to tell my job that I was like, I'm not extending my contract. I'm going to complete my contract, my 2-year contract I had with them, which ended in June. And I was like, and I'm going. And it was all on good terms. They wrote me beautiful letters of recommendation. And I taught high school, and it was, oh my gosh. My favorite grades are 15 to 18-years-olds. That was because I started teaching kids. When you come to Thailand to be an English teacher with no experience, they give you the babies, okay? They give you like...
So that they can just...
Because all you're teaching is cat, C-A-T, you know? But the last 2 years... It was kind of stressful because I was teaching AP and IB level English at this point, like language arts. My students, I'm writing recommendation letters for colleges. Like, it was...
So it's more serious. It's intense.
Mind you, and I'm not a very serious person. So I was like in this classroom, like my students, when I told them I was quitting, they were like, Miss Tori, like, you're too cool to be our teacher.
That's what they were saying.
Yeah. Like they knew. Like, we were like this. Like, they knew. And I knew that I made a huge impact on their mental health, on their emotional health, on their emotional growth. All of that. Like, I felt like I made the biggest difference as a high school teacher than I did when I was teaching the little kids. And that's what was so hard for me to leave, was like leaving the fact that I was like, these kids really trust me and I'm really making this big difference. But I also am teaching them to do things for themselves and to trust themselves and to know, you know, what feels good for you. So when I told them that, I was like, this doesn't feel good for me. And they were like, man, we know. Like, you're not supposed to be.
We understand.
We get it. You like to talk to trees. Like, there's no trees in the city.
Plus, I think also another thing is like, you know how much, like once you grow up, you understand how important it is to have like just a role model for you. And now you have the chance to actually do that to the kids and, you know, calling you cool. They can see you're young. It's not easy to connect with, especially teachers. Most teachers are just like...
At all.
They're boring.
They're boring. You don't want you don't even want to grow up to be like that. So I'm like, why are you teaching me?
And that was
This is not working out for you anyway.
And that was my goal. My goal teaching, because I had a big like imposter syndrome when I first started, because I accidentally got into this job. You don't get a job at an international school unless you have a master's degree usually. Yeah. So it's like I felt imposter syndrome.
Paperwork has to be on point.
I felt like I was not supposed to be there. Like when they interviewed me, I was like, but they just loved me. And I was like, y'all know I don't have a master's. Y'all know I haven't been teaching that long.
We don't care.
But they could tell that like, but so that first year I was overwhelmed and I was so stressed. I thought I was such a terrible teacher because I was the youngest one in the school. And it was just so overwhelming. But then I started to see like the impact that I was actually making on the kids. I was like, you know what? The only thing I care about is being a teacher that I wanted when I was in high school, period. And as long as my students get, you know, are good grades, they're learning, they're understanding. And English, to some extent, it's all fake anyway. You know, that's what I learned as well, is that teachers telling you what a book means, they don't know. Who knows what this book...
They don't.
It's conversation. English is literally... Language arts is literally dissecting and analyzing what we all believe this to be. Yes, some people say this, some people say that. But at the end of the day, I really learned that it was like, I want to teach these kids how to think. Because in Thailand and in Asia and just many countries, I've noticed from TikTok, from all over the places, that education and critical thinking and being able to think outside of your perspective and the way that you grew up and the things that people are telling you, all their parents telling them they have to get straight A's, they have to study math and science, go be doctors, go to the best schools in Japan, Korea, the US. And I sat there and I was the only one telling them, I'm like, man, you don't have to. And you can also do that, and you can also not do that. And that it's okay to not do that as well. Yeah. And like, at least they had another perspective. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be the one that's going to tell you to quit school or drop. I'm never going to be that person, but I am going to tell you that it is okay, that there's different ways to do things.
That critical thinking part, that's what's like kind of like not even...
They
put
don't
in
teach
people's
that.
head. So like even growing up, they forget about. So you only expect to be told like what to do.
The right answer.
Yeah, and you can't survive like with that. Once you're out in the real world, you just realize like, oh, actually things don't work like that.
At all.
Right.
And
I have papers, I have degrees, but I'm not happy. I'm like, this is not how it's supposed to.
And everyone's always looking for the right answer. I remember teaching at the Thai schools, and they'd always be like, I put like, and write your opinion, or what do you think at the end of a question, right? And the students would literally be like, but teacher, what's the answer? And I'd be like, write the answer.
Yeah, what do you think?
No, but what do you want me to write? And I'd be like,
shit.
no, I want you to tell me what you
what do you
think.
want me to write?
And it was so difficult sometimes to get students to understand that what they say and what they think matters. That there's not always going to be a right answer. That's why they like math. That's why they like science, because there's a right answer.
Because you're solving a problem.
They're solving a problem, and there's only one answer. There's ways to get there, but there's one answer. In English, there's never a one answer, ever. We used to make jokes about that, because they'd be like, oh, there's a, it could be
here we go
answer.
again. Here we go
It can be
again.
anything.
It can be anything. But that's special. So now let's go back to now.